Hold it 1 second. It looks like you're endorsing it. Come on, Gary. This is my Oprah Winfrey. You better believe that.
1 second. Hold it.
Okay, look, you introduce me.
First and foremost, guys, me and my brother put this together, so I just want to give a round of applause to my partner, Ryan. Like I said before, guys, we were planning this rally from the get-go. We didn't really plan on having Mr. Mike Gravel over here to speak with us, and all we asked for the campaign was to get a thank you letter. And instead of receiving a thank you letter, we said, Senator Gravel said, "What time should I speak?"
Yeah!
Before me stands the man who lit a spark in all our lives. Before me stands the man who will not let any of us down. Before me stands the man who will not take no for an answer. Before me stands the man who has given the American people what they deserve: honesty, integrity, and lots of knowledge in these times of desperation and tragedy. In 1971, Mike Gravel led a one-man filibuster that ended the military draft. Mike Gravel, a two-time senator from Alaska, also stopped nuclear testing in Alaska. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Gravel is not politics as usual, but rather a courageous man ready to move this country in the right direction. He will not be shut down by mainstream media because his voice is way too powerful. His supporters will not give up because Mike, this country desperately needs you. Ladies and gentlemen, before me stands the next president of the United States. Without further ado, the man, the myth, and the legend, Mr. Mike Gravel.
Well, you only become a legend by living long enough for people to look back and say, my God, he was a real leader. They forget that when I was doing these things, and they were all done, believe it or not, in the first Al-Qaeda, fighting terrorism is not a war, it's a criminal act. We've had it from the beginning of civilization. It's criminality. What we need is to strengthen Interpol. What we need is to strengthen international intelligence and root it out where it is. But one thing for sure, if we can solve, and I pledge that I will do this, I will bring about peace between Palestine and Israel. And when I do that, I will defeat the entire confrontation in the Islamic world, and that will begin the first step to diminishing the level of terrorism in the world.
Also, that's right.
Well, I'll deal with the first criminal organization, which is the United States of America.
You got that right.
More nuclear devices around the world than anybody else. And the first thing I'll do as president, I'll take our stockpile of nukes and I'll cut it in half, unilateral, just to demonstrate to the rest of the world that we're serious about disarming. Every member of the Security Council at the UN is in violation of the Non-Proliferation Agreement of Article 36, which says that you have to start cutting down on your nukes. We have been expanding our nukes. And to give you a sense of our power, we have 19 Trident submarines. 19. They have 16 missiles each. They have 12 MIRV warheads. One submarine can hold the entire world hostage. We don't talk about that. When we talk about Iran, the threat to us, one of missiles from one of our 19 submarines can destroy all of Iran, all of North Korea. What the hell are we afraid of? We spend more on defense than all the rest of the world put together. Who are we afraid of? Who are we afraid of? You make a comparison between us and the rest of the world, we're 50%. Here, Britain is 5%, France is 5%, Japan is 4%, China, 4%. Russia, 3%. Israel, I don't have that. They're up there. They're up there, but not in the volume. Not in the volume of the others. No, we'll go after criminals. Well, you go after any mafia. Well, what creates the mafia? Here, I'll tell you what's creating the mafia in this country is the war on drugs.
Exactly. Exactly. That's right.
There's nothing wrong with marijuana. All studies show that marijuana is not addictive. Marijuana is not a gateway drug. My God, you should be able to buy marijuana at a liquor store. Yeah. I become president, and there's more than 600,000 people in jail who've been convicted on some part of marijuana. They're all going to get pardoned.
Yeah.
Never mind the riches of the world, the real criminals. I'm going to pardon every one of those people in jail who've got there as a result of marijuana.
Good.
And then with hard drugs, it's real simple. Go to a doctor. You got a coke problem? Go to a doctor, get a prescription, go fill it at the drugstore. And then you take the whole criminality out of this problem. What is ravaging our inner cities is the war on drugs. We have an addiction problem, and it is a public health problem. It is not a criminal problem. We're all druggies to one level or another. Caffeine.
Ron Paul, and that's just a world like it's like three amigos. Would you consider running with either of them as a vice president, or having either of them be your vice president?
Anything's possible for my vice president. I don't want to be anybody else's vice president. You got to be tough. Dennis is a nice guy. Too nice, in fact. Ron Paul, he's a nice guy. You know, he's a doctor. He's a nice guy. I'm a tough guy. And that's what you want. You don't want a namby-pamby. You don't want a namby-pamby as president. And I'll tell you, last night, I don't know if you saw it on TV, I love this. I consider myself the Cinderella politician. The Cinderella politician. Jimmy Braddock, I can take a punch, but man, I can deliver one. The Jimmy Braddock of this region.
Your slogan is not politics as usual.
Right.
And obviously you're not that when you walk into a crowd of Ron Paul supporters and you advocated the cynics, making that he says good points or whatnot. Have you ever got any respect like that from any other candidate, besides Ralph Nader, saying, you know what, you did a good job, or you inspired you?
No, they use my stuff.
Yeah.
They do. They weren't even aware of what they were voting on over the Lieberman II resolution. They didn't even realize what it was about. I mean, and it didn't dawn on them that you spring this thing, and all of a sudden, up comes the majority leader, the whip. Everybody just lines up like a bunch of ducks, just voting, and giving George Bush the power to go to war in Iran. I tell you, we go to war in Iran. Everybody within sight of me right now, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer. I'm talking about a world depression. Nobody gets out of this without hurting, and that's the best part of it. The worst, a nuclear holocaust, a nuclear exchange that could destroy Israel. I want Israel to survive. I want the Palestinians to rise to the economic level of Israel. The Abdullah plan, where he's pledged that if we can bring about peace on 67 borders, we're talking about he will use his power in the Islamic world to not only recognize Israel, but the entire Islamic world will trade with Israel. So if you have an economic entity where they're both equal at their level and are at the fulcrum of the Islamic world, we're talking about what is possible in raising up the whole thing to a higher level. I mean, this is why I keep talking about there's enough on this planet to go around for everybody. We just have to have the brains and the sense of love to want to manage it for the benefit of everybody. Not the way we're doing it now with greed, power. You know, we will not survive. The planet will not survive the way we're going at these problems of greed and selfishness. No, we've got to realize, and I've said this repeatedly,